Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle, and in this video I have a big old thrifty book haul for you. I have been out and about recently, and these are from like, I don't know, the last month or so, although I will show you a stack that I got just yesterday because the Salvation Army thrift store had a flash sale where their books were half price. So yeah, I jumped all over that. But first, this first stack of books is from some previous shops, so the used bookstores, some thrift stores, etc. And so let's just delve right into these. I got Tears of the Giraffe by Alexander McCall Smith. This is from his #1 Ladies Detective Agency series, and this is the second in the series. This is a really fun series. They're set in Botswana. And Alexander McCall Smith, he actually lived in Botswana for a time, and you can tell because in this series he has a love for Africa that just comes out in his writing. And the #1 Lady Detective Agency is just fantastic. So the main character is Precious Remotsway, and after her father dies, she moves into the city of Gaborone and she opens a detective agency. And the books are mysteries, but the cases that she solves are, you know, missing children or husbands that are acting, you know, suspiciously, all kinds of things. But they're really gentle mysteries, and there's a lot of just sitting and talking, and I just really love the characters in these, and they are humorous at times. And so I've been starting to collect this series, and so I was really excited to find this second one. I got W.J. Burley's Wycliffe and the Cycle of Death. These are a series of mysteries set in Cornwall. The character is Superintendent Wycliffe, and this is a fun series. I believe they're from the 90s. Yeah, this one's 1990, and I'm not far along. So from the 80s and the 90s, and they're just kind of a mystery, police procedural maybe. I enjoy this series. And I was super excited to find a Patricia Moyes. I'm trying to collect all of her books. She wrote a series in like the 80s and 90s, I think. This one is from 83, and her main character is Chief Superintendent Henry Tibbet of Scotland Yard, and he gets himself involved in cases. His wife is very often involved in the stories, and I just really like Patricia Moyes. Her books are great, her characters are good, the mysteries are really good, and so I was just super excited to find this. This is a 6-letter word for death. And I found Elizabeth Daly, The Book of the Dead. I just recently seen a video where Otto Penzler is talking about books that feature books, like mysteries that feature books or booksellers or whatever, and he mentioned this series, and I got the first of it out from our library, and when I was at the used bookstore I saw this and I could not believe it. And so her main character is Henry Gamage, and he is a book sleuth, I think is what she calls him. But this is from 1944. So she wrote this book, this series in the 40s. And so I was just super excited to find this. And this one is, there's some old volume of Shakespeare. Henry Crenshaw had prepared for death as carefully as though he were attending a formal party. There was nothing suspicious in his passing, except for some cryptic jottings he had made in an old volume of Shakespeare next to marked passages in The Tempest. Adelia Fisher, who gave the marked book to Henry Gamage, believed that there was more to Crenshaw's death than met the eye. Gamage agreed, but scarcely had the book-loving urbane detective began his investigations when he came across Adelia's body lying in the vestibule of her rooming house. She had been beaten down and her skull had been crushed. So I'll let you know what I think of Elizabeth Daly's Biblio-mystery. I found A.G. MacDonald, England, Their England, which is a book set, published in 1933. And on the back it says it's one of the great classics of English humor. So I thought that I would check that out. The story of Donald Cameron returning home from the First World War and setting out to write a book about the English, their curious habits and traditional customs. So we'll see. And I found a couple of Susana Gregory. I'm collecting these as I find them. She's got two different series, but these are both from her Matthew Bartholomew series, which are set in Cambridge in the 1300s. And I really like Susana Gregory. She writes great historical mysteries. And so this is the fourth one, A Deadly Brew. And this is the 10th one, The Hand of Justice. And I found a Georgette Heyer, The Corinthian. I am really close to have collected all of Georgette Heyer's, and I'm really excited about that. And I was excited to find this one because it's, oh, I guess it's not super early, but it's from 1940, The Corinthian. And I found a great edition of Erle Stanley Gardner's The Case of the Lazy Lover. So I'm collecting the Perry Mason series as well, but only if I can find these kind of editions. I just really like them. So The Case of the Lazy Lover is from 1947, and this edition was published in 1959. And then I found a few Nero Wolfes. I'm also trying to collect Rex Stout's series of Nero Wolfes, and I'm getting pretty close with those too. So I found The Red Box, 3 for the Chair, and Too Many Clients. Now these are kind of all over the place. This one was originally published in 1960. This one is from 56. And this one is from 36. So yeah, Nero Wolfe is a private detective in New York, and so I quite enjoy those as well. And then I found an Edward Marston. I really like his Railway Detective series. So these are set in the mid-1800s, and the main character is Inspector Colbeck, and he works out of Scotland Yard, and he has become famous for solving crimes connected to the railway, and so he has been deemed the railway detective. And so if something happens connected to the railway, then people will call Scotland Yard and ask for him to come and investigate them. And they're just really very entertaining historical mysteries. And this is A Ticket to Oblivion, and this is a book about a woman and her maid who board a non-stop train to Oxford, and when the train arrives, she has disappeared. And I found Erik Larson's In the Garden of Beasts, Love, Terror, and an American Family in Hitler's Britain. I really like Erik Larson, and so I've been picking up his books when I see them as well. And so this one is set in 1933. These, of course, are nonfiction history books. And I found Somerset Abbey by T.J. Brown. I've read this trilogy from the library and I really enjoyed it, and so I was super excited to find this is the first one. And these are historical fiction, possibly historical mystery, I can't remember. But it's set in Edwardian times, which I find really interesting. So it's set in 1913. In a sprawling manor on the outskirts of London, 3 young women seek to fulfill their destinies and desires amidst the unspoken rules of society and the distant rumblings of war. And I found a misread that I was not aware of at all, The Howards of Crawley. She only wrote this one book about them, and it's from 1967. I really like Miss Reed. She just kind of writes gentle village stories. And I found a Susanna Kearsley that I didn't have yet, The Rose Garden. Susanna Kearsley writes kind of dual timeline, historical fiction. There's sometimes an element of time travel involved. And in this one, when Eva's film star sister Katrina dies, she leaves California and returns to Cornwall, where they spent their childhood summers, to scatter Katrina's ashes, and in doing so, return to the place where she belongs. But then, of course, you know, mysterious things happen. And I found, this one doesn't have the dust jacket, but it is The Link, a Victorian mystery by Robin Mom. Now, I looked it up. He is the nephew of W. Somerset Maugham, and this book was written in 1969, and as it says, it is a Victorian mystery. So, never heard of this writer or this book, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I got this one free from the library pop-up sale, Court of Lions by Jane Johnson. I'll read it and see. If I really love it, I'll keep it, and if not, then I'll put it in my own little free library. This is a book set in Granada in Spain, and there's dual timelines involved, and it just sounded really interesting. So yeah, we'll see what I think of that one. And then I found The Serpent's Tale by Ariana Franklin. I've been trying to collect this series. There's only 4 or 5 in this series, and so I was really excited to find this. These are books about, the main character is, oh, I've just forgotten her name, Adelia, and they're set in medieval England, and Adelia has been trained medically in a university in Europe, and the king kind of likes to use her for help, and so she solves mysteries for him. In 12th century England, one remarkable woman is trained to uncover the final secrets of the dead. And then the last from this particular stack is Murderous Inc, the better half of the mystery perpetuated by Dilys Wynne. Now, there's 2 of these books, Murder Inc and Murderous Inc, and they came out in the 70s, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 1979. And these books are, they're great. Like, they're just, it's full of articles about all kinds of things. And written by all kinds of people. So, Gothic, Had I But Known, Damsel in Distress, Stalking the Elusive Distinction by Anne B. Tracy. Or Golden Age Legacy, The House Party. Or The Why Done It, Novels a la Freud. And so, of course, this one is focusing in on women authors or women detectives. You know, here's an article, A Face-to-Face Encounter with Sayers by Josephine Bell. The Irreproachable Miss Tay by Catherine Aird. So it's just, I mean, it's just a whole bunch of articles related to mystery, and so I was really excited to find this. I'd love to get Mystery or Murder Inc as well, and have both of them. Okay. This next little stash is books that I got for free. So I visited some little free libraries, and also the pop-up book sale that's still free at our library. And so I got The Dead and Their Vaulted Arches by Alan Bradley. This is one of the Flavia de Luce series. This is a historical mystery series set in 1950s in England, and the main character, Flavia, in the first book, she's 11. And as the series continues, obviously she grows up, but they're just really entertaining. Flavia is really into chemistry, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the books. But yeah, I was excited to find that for free. The Man Who Couldn't Miss by David Handler. This is a Stuart Hogg mystery. I've never heard of this series, but Harlan Coben apparently said, one of my all-time favorite series. So the main character, Stuart Hogg, is a Hollywood ghost writer, and then gets himself involved in mysteries. So hey, sounds good. And then from Little Free Libraries, I got Donna Tartt's The Secret History. I've been hearing all about this, and so for free, I thought, great, I'll read it and see what I think for myself. It's about a group of students at a New England university who I believe like try to get away with murder or something. I don't really know. And I found Bedlam by Laura Jo Rowland, The Further Secret Adventures of Charlotte Bronte. So this is a mystery, but the main character is Charlotte Bronte, which sounded intriguing to me, so I grabbed that. And then I also got The Hollow Crown by Miri Rubin. This is a history of Britain in the late Middle Ages. And this just sounded really good. Also, isn't that cover great? So, 9 kings ruled England in the 2 centuries described by this book. 6 died violently, 2 usurped the throne and died naturally, if uneasily, after brief reigns, and only 1, Edward III, lived into old age, a pathetic shadow of the brilliant young warrior who had once dazzled Europe. The extraordinary world so brilliantly recreated in The Hollow Crown was a turbulent and dangerous one. The country was racked by famine, rebellion, civil war, and death. So yeah, I like a good history, and this just looked really interesting. Now, this last stack of books is the books that I got yesterday at the half price sale. So this stack of 20 books I got for $15. Right? Isn't that amazing? So that's essentially 75 cents each. So are you as excited as I am about seeing what books I got for 75 cents each? Let's get into it. I got 1949 by Morgan Llewellyn. This is a story of that takes place in Ireland. 1949 tells the story of Ireland's progress as seen through the eyes of one woman from the bitter aftermath of civil war to the controversial dawn of a modern state. I got a couple MMK books. I got Death in Kenya and Death in Cyprus. She wrote these books in the 50s, I believe. Let me double check. Yes, Death in Cyprus is from 56. And Death in Kenya is from 58. And so these are just kind of entertaining thrillers set in various different countries. I got J.J. Merrick's Gideon's Wrath. Look at this cover. Is that ever dated or what, hey? This book was written in 1967. Mystifying Murders. Oh. Copyright 67 by John Creasy. Is J.J. Merrick a pseudonym for John Creasy? If anybody knows, could you put that in the comment section down below? That's very interesting. It was night when a murderer came out of St. Lud's Church, breathlessly searched for a telephone, and anonymously called Scotland Yard. In another part of the city, a teenage girl was posing nude for a photographer, as other girls had, all of whom later disappeared. As sinister patterns of passion and violence began to take shape, Scotland Yard's master sleuth, George Gideon, moves in on the most mystifying murder cases of his career. I found another Erik Larson, Isaac's Storm. My husband and I have both read this book. We got it from the library before, and this is such an interesting story. This takes place in Texas in 1900. A man, a time, and the deadliest hurricane in history. So this guy, Isaac Klein, is a meteorologist for the U.S. Weather Bureau. So even he failed to grasp the true meaning of the strange deep sea swells and peculiar winds that greeted the city that morning. Mere hours later, Galveston found itself submerged by a monster hurricane that completely destroyed the town and killed over 6,000 people in what remains the greatest natural disaster in American history. And Isaac Klein found himself the victim of a devastating personal tragedy. Using Klein's own telegrams, letters, and reports, the testimony of scores of survivors, and our latest understanding of the science of hurricanes, Erik Larson builds a chronicle of one man's heroic struggle and fatal miscalculation in the face of a storm of unimaginable magnitude. So yeah, this was a really good story. I would totally reread it, and I was super excited to find it so cheap. Then I picked up a couple of books for my husband. This is Con Eggledon's Julius Caesar series. This is Emperor the Gates of Rome and Emperor the Death of Kings. So these are just books set during the time of Julius Caesar, and my husband really enjoys those. And then this is Amy McKay, The Virgin Cure. Now, I've never heard of this book, but it just caught my attention, and so when I looked at the synopsis, I decided to pick it up, especially since it was only 75 cents. I am Moth, a girl from the lowest part of Christie Street, born to a slum house mystic and the man who broke her heart. So begins The Virgin Cure, a novel set in the tenements of Lower Manhattan in the year 1871. Betrayals and abandonment lead young Moth to the Bowery, a world filled with house thieves, pickpockets, beggars, sideshow freaks, and prostitutes. Eventually, she meets Miss Everett, the owner of a type of establishment simply known as an infant school that caters to gentlemen who pay dearly for companions, the most desirable of which are young virgins like Moth. As Moth finds her way through this wild and murky thoroughfare, her new friends are falling prey to the myth of the virgin cure, that deflowering a young girl can heal the incurable and tainted. Moth knows that the law will not protect her and polite society ignores her, but still she dreams of answering to no one but herself, regardless of the cost. And this book was published in 2011. Then I got a few that don't have the dust jackets on them, but this is A River in the Sky by Elizabeth Peters. This is from her Amelia Peabody series that I'm collecting, and I only have a few more left. And this one has a great map to illustrate Palestine, part of the Ottoman Empire, 1910, for the end papers. I like a good map. And the back here has map to illustrate the Holy City of Jerusalem, 1910. And just for free, I just noticed this now. Look at this cool bookmark that was in there. Isn't that nice? Awesome. Free bookmarks. Okay. And then I also got A Loss of Patience by Ralph McKierney, which is a Father Dowling mystery. I've never read any of the Father Dowling mysteries, but I have heard of them, so I thought I'd give it a shot. And this is from 1982. And then The Murder of the Maharaja by H.R.F. Keating. I've been wanting to read some of his work as well, and so I grabbed this one. It's a mystery, and it's set in India in 1930. Okay, a few more. I found a Sloane and Crosby mystery by Catherine Aird called A Going Concern. I like Catherine Aird. I've only read a few of her Crosby and Sloane and Crosby's mysteries, but I was excited to find this one. This one was from 1993, and they are just mysteries, you know, with a pair of detectives set in England. I found another Georgette Hare, April Lady. So yeah, I am really close to having all of hers. This one is from 1957, so a little Regency romance there. I found, this is one I'll probably read and then send along to my mom, Goodnight Sweetheart by Annie Groves. So this is a historical fiction set in Liverpool during World War II. And then I found a couple of books by Barbara Kyle. Now, I've never read Barbara Kyle, but these are historical fictions set in the Tudor times. And so since this is Tudor timber, I thought I better pick these up. So The Queen's Lady is set in London in 1527. Marry or serve. For honor Lark, the choice is clear. Unwilling to perish of boredom as an obedient wife, she leaves the home of her ward, the brilliant Sir Thomas More, to attend Her Majesty, Queen Catherine of Aragon. But life at Henry VIII's court holds more than artifice for an intelligent observer, and honor knows how to watch and when to act. Angered by the humiliation heaped upon her mistress as Henry cavorts with Anne Boleyn and presses Rome for a divorce, Honor volunteers to carry letters to the Queen's allies. It's a risky game, but Honor is sure she's playing it well until she's proven wrong. Richard Thornley may cut a dashing figure at court, but Honor isn't taken in by his reckless charm. Only later does Honor realize that Richard has awakened something within her, and he too has something to hide. For the king's actions are merely one knot in a twisted web that stretches across Europe, ensnaring everyone from the lowliest of peasants to the most powerful of nobles. Swept away in a tide of intrigue and danger, the Queen's Lady is about to learn everything about pride, passion, greed, and the conscience of the king. If you've read anything by Barbara Kyle, could you let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about it? So this was published from 2008, but this book was originally published as a mass market paperback in 1994 under the title A Dangerous Temptation. So I think that's interesting. And then the other one, Blood Between Queens, is a book about Mary, Queen of Scots, and her cousin Queen Elizabeth, which is such an interesting part of history. And this one came out in 2013, and it appears that that is when it was also originally published. So if you know anything about Barbara Kyle, let me know in the comment section down below. And then I found Nero Wolfe of West 35th Street, The Life and Times of America's Largest Private Detective by William S. Baring Gould. And so yeah, it's just kind of one of those books. It's a look at a detective. Interestingly enough, this was first printed in 1969, so not that long after the series finished. And I found a Simon Brett Feathering Village Mysteries. This is Bones Under the Beech Hut. And I've actually just read a couple in that series, and I'm quite enjoying them. They're very entertaining. And this one was published in 2011. And then I got a history, Ambition and Desires by Kate Williams, The Dangerous Life of Josephine Bonaparte. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know a lot about Josephine Bonaparte, and so for so little money, why not, right? And then another history book, Paris 1919, 6 Months That Changed the World by Margaret Macmillan, and this was the winner of the Samuel Johnson Prize. For 6 months in 1919, after the end of the war to end all wars, the big three, President Woodrow Wilson, British Prime Minister David Lloyd George, and French Premier Georges Clemenceau met in Paris to shape a lasting peace. In this landmark work of narrative history, Margaret Macmillan gives a dramatic and intimate view of those fateful days, which saw new political entities, Iraq, Yugoslavia, and Palestine among them, born out of the ruins of bankrupt empires and the borders of the modern world redrawn. So this has been my big old thrifty book haul. Do you own any of these books? Have you read any of these books? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts were. And do any of these books look interesting to you? I'd love to hear about that as well. And I'll see you for another video soon. Bye.